They were not killed by enemies. They were killed by systems designed to protect them. Shiro Ishii. In 1932, a military surgeon received something no scientist had ever been given before. Not a laboratory, not a budget, a guarantee. Whatever happened inside Unit 731 would never be prosecuted. Ishii had spent years arguing that biological weapons could win wars faster than bombs. The Japanese Imperial Army agreed. They gave him a facility in Manchuria, an unlimited supply of prisoners, and one instruction: produce results. The first thing the system did was remove language. Prisoners were no longer called prisoners. They were called maruta, logs. Before the first experiment began, the people inside Unit 731 had already been reclassified as material. But the experiments did not stay small. The program expanded. Hundreds of subjects became thousands. Infection testing moved to pressure chambers. Pressure chambers moved to frostbite trials. And then the system crossed a threshold it never came back from. Live vivisection became standard procedure. The protocol used no anesthesia. None of the subjects survived. Each case was logged as material, which is what the system had renamed them to be at the start. Then the program moved outside the walls. Biological agents were released over Chinese civilian populations. The facility was no longer a laboratory. It was a weapons testing system with human targets. When the war ended, Ishii negotiated immunity in exchange for his data. He was never prosecuted. He died in 1959, at home, of throat cancer. The system that guaranteed his protection in life extended it past the war. He did not build a torture program. He built a research institution where death was the expected outcome, and the state made sure no one would ever answer for it. Sigmund Rascher. In 1942, he wrote a letter to Heinrich Himmler. He needed human subjects for hypothermia experiments. He explained that animal testing could not produce accurate data. Only humans would work. He asked for access to concentration camp prisoners. Himmler approved the request within weeks. The official justification was survival research. Luftwaffe pilots were dying in the North Sea after being shot down. The military needed to know how long a body could survive in freezing water, and how to bring it back. Rascher's answer to that question required crossing the survival threshold to find it. Subjects were stripped and immersed in tanks of ice water. Temperature probes were inserted to monitor core body heat. Rascher stood at the edge of the tank and recorded numbers as the body shut down. Some subjects lost consciousness within an hour. Some lasted longer. Rascher noted the variables: age, body composition, clothing, position in the water. Then the rewarming experiments began. Subjects pulled from the water at the edge of death were subjected to different revival methods. Some were placed next to heated bodies. Some were put under lamps. Some were revived enough to be frozen again. The experiment required the subject to cross the death threshold. Survival would have invalidated the data. The experiment did not fail. It completed its objective. Rascher was arrested in 1944, not for the experiments, but for falsifying research and claiming adopted children as his own. He was executed by the SS in Dachau 1 month before liberation. The system that gave him prisoners killed him for paperwork fraud. The deaths in the ice tanks were never the reason. He did not cross a line. He was given a system where no line existed. And when that system no longer needed him, it disposed of him the same way it disposed of everyone else. Ewan Cameron. In 1957, patients were admitted to the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal for depression and anxiety. Some were housewives. Some were students. One was a politician. They came because they were struggling, and because the institute had a reputation for serious psychiatric care. They were not told that their doctor was running a CIA-funded program to find out if the human mind could be erased and rebuilt from nothing. Cameron believed that mental illness was embedded in existing personality structures. His solution was to destroy the structure first. He called it depatterning. The first stage was sleep. Patients were kept in medically induced unconsciousness for weeks, sometimes months. While they slept, recorded messages played on loop, the same phrases, repeated thousands of times, designed to replace existing thought patterns. But sleep alone was not enough. Cameron increased the electroconvulsive therapy. Standard psychiatric use involved low-intensity sessions, carefully spaced. Cameron administered shocks at 30 to 40 times normal intensity, multiple times per day. Then he added LSD and sensory deprivation. Patients were placed in isolation chambers, deprived of all sensory input, medicated, shocked, and kept unconscious in rotation. When they surfaced, they did not know where they were. They did not know who they were. One patient could not remember that she had children. Another had to relearn how to walk. Several lost decades of memory permanently, At least 3 patients died during or directly after the program. Others survived physically but never recovered cognitively. Some spent the rest of their lives in psychiatric institutions, placed there by the same system that destroyed them. Cameron published his results in academic journals. He was never prosecuted. The CIA funded the program through front organizations. The university provided the building, the staff, and the reputation. The patients provided everything else. They did not enter a prison. They entered a hospital. The system that was supposed to protect them was the system that erased them. Plutonium injections. 1945. The war in Europe was over. The bomb was ready. And the scientists needed to know what plutonium does to a human body. 18 patients were selected from hospitals across the United States. The selection criteria were simple: terminal diagnosis, or short expected lifespan. The assumption was that they would not live long enough to ask questions. They were injected with plutonium without being told. Doctors presented the injections as part of their existing treatment. Some patients were told they were receiving a new medication. None were told what it actually was. The program was classified. The patients had no access to their own records. Their families had no access. Their physicians outside the program had no access. For years, the subjects were monitored. Urine samples collected, tissue samples taken after death. The data accumulated while the source of the damage remained hidden from the people experiencing it. Some patients lived longer than the program anticipated. They developed cancers, organ damage, conditions their doctors could not explain. They asked questions. They were given answers that had nothing to do with plutonium, because the records that contained the truth were classified. They died not knowing what had been done to them. Of the 18 subjects, at least 11 died from radiation-induced conditions. The government acknowledged the program in 1986, 40 years after the injections. By then, every original subject was dead. The system that ended the war by splitting the atom then used its own citizens to measure what that does to a human body. It classified the damage. It outlived the people it damaged. And it waited until they were all gone before it admitted what it had done. Tuskegee, 1932, Macon County, Alabama. 399 men came looking for help. They were sharecroppers, laborers, men with no access to regular medical care. The United States Public Health Service offered them something they had never had before: free treatment for what doctors called bad blood. They signed up. They showed up. They trusted the system. The system was not there to treat them. The study required untreated subjects, men whose syphilis would be allowed to progress naturally, without intervention, so researchers could document what the disease does to the body over time. The men were given placebos, vitamins, aspirin, nothing that would affect the disease. They were told they were being treated. In 1947, penicillin became the standard cure for syphilis. A single course of treatment could have saved most of them. The study continued. When World War II began, some of the men were drafted. Military physicians identified syphilis and prepared to treat them. The Public Health Service intervened directly, contacting draft boards to exempt the men from treatment. The government blocked the cure to protect the data set. For 40 years, the men kept coming back. They brought their wives. Some brought their children. They shook hands with the doctors. They thanked them for the care. The system never told them, not once in 40 years. In 1972, a whistleblower exposed the program. The study was terminated. There were no foreign enemies, no war, no dictatorship. This was a public health agency, in a democracy, running for 40 years with full internal approval. 28 men died directly from syphilis, 100 from complications, 40 wives infected, 19 children born with congenital syphilis. The system did not fail them. It worked exactly as designed. It just wasn't designed for them. The doctor who ran the program died of natural causes in 1979. He was never charged.